years ago, Danny Glover, the actor, was in New York City and he tried to hail a cab and he encountered a problem. I think what he ultimately ended up doing was getting his daughter to get the cab for him. But because he had initially been ignored by the cabbies and he was aware that this was an ongoing problem for many African American males, he decided to file a complaint against the city. The mayor at that time was Rudy Giuliani, and he got involved. And I remember vaguely, I don't remember all the details, but I do remember that he decided to do some type of undercover operation where he was going to put police officers undercover and black police officers, get them to hail a cab, and if the cab was empty and they didn't pick them up, they were going to issue them tickets as a punishment. When this was going on, my aunt and uncle and I were sitting down, we were watching television. I think CNN was running the story. And my uncle went on and on and on about discrimination and how things hadn't changed and how people were racist and how he was certain the vast majority of the cab drivers were foreigners. And my aunt backed him. Well, I disagreed with them, not just to be disagreeable, but I disagreed with them because I honestly had sympathy for the cab drivers. I know that racism exists, it's still out there, and I know that all people of all races and colors have prejudices. But as a black person, I think we need to take more self-inventory and just start accepting accountability. I think a lot of the problems that we have, we are now inviting on ourselves by living up to the stereotypes and by not taking responsibility and accountability for our own actions and shortcomings as a group, as a race, as a people. I know a young man, he's from Ghana, of course he's black, and he was a cab driver. When he was driving a cab, he was held up by a black man. And he told me that several of his cabbie friends had been robbed or not tipped or under-tipped or duped for their fares by black males. It's obvious that I'm trying to say this in such a way that's not going to offend people, but I really don't know how to soften it. So I guess I'll just come out and say it. There is still a lot of crime that's taking place in the African American community by black males and outside of the African American community by black males. So now there is a justified image of black males as being dangerous and posing a threat. So when you have people and they see black men and they're walking down the street and they feel uncomfortable and they cross the street or they hold their wallets and stuff, when black men who are upstanding are offended and hurt by people acting this way, to me, they should be angry, not with the people, but they should be angry with their brethren for living out the stereotype and for so many times proving to people that they are capable of hurting them and robbing them and stiffing them for the cab fare. I think the problem now has really boiled down to not black against white, but really black people who are living out their potential, defying the stereotypes, not just for the sake of defying the stereotypes, but because we really can't relate to them. We really have a high moral code. We really want more for ourselves and for our sisters and for our brothers, and we just don't like the immoral behavior that a lot of black people have come to embrace as part of African American culture. It is very sad that, for the most part, the people who suffer when black people fall short are the black people who are not falling short. I get asked so many times about why so many African American women are having babies out of wedlock and why our sisters are content to have these babies out of wedlock and what are we going to do about it and how do I feel about it. And when I take the time to really sit down and share my point of view, a lot of times the people that I'm talking to, if they're not black, if they're white, they start like fussing at me because of the way my group is behaving. And I used to be angry when this happened, and I would say, you know, why are you asking me questions? I don't know the answers to, you know, why some sisters are settling, and I can't speak for every African American woman, or I can't speak for every African American man. If I'm not living up to the stereotype, or if I'm not engaging in the behavior, and if I'm disgusted by the behavior, then it's not fair that I should have to answer for the behavior. But by the same token, I try to frame the African American experience or the black experience within the context of historical input and conditioning. So sometimes, yes, I can shed light on behaviors that I would never dream of engaging in, and sometimes I can shed light on behaviors of my sisters, and sometimes I can shed light on why black people think and feel and do the things that we do, even if it's not something that I would do. But by the same token, I'm not going to be embarrassed when my sisters are doing something that I can't relate to or that I don't agree with, because I'm going to save my shame, I'm going to save my embarrassment for when I do something wrong, which I think is fair. Unlike all the other groups on the planet and in this country, black people are still judged by those of us who miss the mark, who don't live up to the standards, unlike other races of people who tend to be judged, I think, more fairly. They're judged as individuals, and they're judged sometimes by their very best. Maybe this is because more of us are doing poorly than are doing well. I don't know. I think if we divide African American women from African American men, or if we separate black men across the globe from black women, I think that black women are faring a lot better. However, we're still going to be judged by those in our race group, whether they are of our same gender or not. I don't understand what's going on. I was recently invited to a graduation, and the school was a private school. Most of the students were of Islamic or Jewish descent, and they were all graduating with honors. There were 6 black students sitting in the area where all the students were, and none of them, not one of them, received any type of award for academic excellence. And after the little ceremony was over, and I was standing outside and talking to my friends and a couple of the parents, none of the black children seemed to be embarrassed or ashamed that they hadn't gotten any type of recognition for academic excellence. And I pulled one of the young ladies aside and I asked her about it, and she just blew it off. There is just no shame within our race group for failure anymore. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to begin to correct it, other than to say, make a blanket statement that we need to attach the appropriate amount of shame to when we fall short. But even attaching shame for some of our kids, it's not a motivator. We're struggling, we're falling short, we're failing behind. And it's like all we can do is sit by, those of us who are brokenhearted about it, and just look and talk about it, and no solutions are coming up to try to turn this thing around. I don't know, your video was very thought-provoking, very thought-provoking. As a black woman, I want to just reach out and save every last black woman and encourage her to live out her full potential. But I just feel like some of my sisters, there's such a divide, even within the culture, that we're not hearing each other. I know that there is a subculture, and there are various subcultures within our culture, but I don't think even 20 years ago it was this bad. I don't even know how we're going to begin to fix things.